Welcome back, Crusaders. Today we're talking about Final Fantasy 16. Now, I haven't played a Final Fantasy game all the way through probably since 7 is the last one I'll probably beat completely. My history of Final Fantasy is kind of sparse. I haven't played through all the games, mainly because when I was a kid, not all the games came to the U.S. So I played 1, 2, what was called 3 in the U.S., which I believe was actually 4, played all the way through 7, played some of 8, until you get like the airship and you have no compass to know which way the fuck you're going in that game. 10 was a very cool game to watch people play, but I didn't like the fact that they added the summons as like a fourth, as like an extra character to fight as, so you didn't get like the big cinematic attacks that summons used to get. And we're no longer in 10. Tried 13, didn't like it because of the stereotypical characterization of the black guy with the afro with a bird living in his head. Got to 15 and thought, okay, cool, here's finally like a model of a Final Fantasy game that I might actually like, where it's like no longer turn-based. Even though I did turn-based was fine, but like having a live action, more like a Zelda game, would seem more of my style. But they modernized the story and they told it in pieces and just kind of basically fucked themselves where that game is terrible. I guess it's not now that all the episodes are out to fill the gaps, but when I originally played it when it first came out, I put it down after the point where I think you finally run into Leviathan, and one of your party members disappears and they come back and they're blind. And they don't necessarily say, yeah, by the way, I'm blind. You just kind of have to realize that he's not looking at anything, and then, oh, okay, this character can't see. Why can't he see? We don't know. We had to wait 6 months for a DLC to come out to finally tell us what the fuck happened. So, I mean, at that point, Final Fantasy was pretty much like, the thing that was really good about those games in the past was that they were really, really good storytellers. And when you fuck up the story as bad as they did in 15, it seemed like it wasn't worth it. So, never played Strangers in Paradise or anything like that. But then 16 finally came out, and constantly heard people say how great that game was on PlayStation. Came out on Xbox finally this year. So checked it out, and I gotta say, it's probably my favorite Final Fantasy. And like, it feels like a real continuation to the series based off of, you know, what I've played, which is like the last like SNES version being 3 or Final Fantasy 4, because it feels like, you know, it's put back into like a medieval time instead of being modernized, which I like that a lot. And I like that it has callbacks in all its music and everything to the original Final Fantasy themes and songs that we've heard over the years. That 7 did a really good job of doing that as well, and also modernizing their story. But this is a good job of calling back to all that stuff and yet making it its own. I felt we got rid of a lot of the overly complicated things about that Final Fantasy added. Like with Final Fantasy X, they added the whole spheres leveling up system, which got really fucking complicated from there, and just was too much to deal with, in my opinion. I feel like Final Fantasy 16 may have dumbed it down a little bit too much, to where you are only one character. You're not worrying about what your other characters are doing. You barely have any control over what they do or when they do it. They just act on their own. You have a leveling up system that requires nothing on your part. You level up and you get health and all your stats go up. You don't have to worry about applying points anywhere. Your character is just going to get stronger and stronger as you play. But it is still a fun game. I feel like maybe they dumbed it down a little bit too much on that end. I don't even necessarily pick where my stats points go, but it removes a lot of the RPG elements from it when you don't have to make those decisions. The only decisions you're making are what type of attacks you want to have, what type of sword you want to have, and your armor is dumbed down to like 3 pieces, which basically just come down to stats, because like you don't get really a costume change except for big moments. As far as I've been through the game, I have not finished Final Fantasy 16 yet, but had like one costume change completely for my character, which looks a lot better. I'm glad we finally got out of the starting uniform that he had. But it would be nice to see little changes with the different items you put on. At least the nice thing is that you do see changes with the swords that you get. But everything is very, very kind of dumbed down and made very simple, even more simple than the old Super Nintendo or Final Fantasy games rather than the old Nintendo games. It literally is, you found the sword, blacksmith, add a +1 to it, add a +2 to it. Go to the field and just kind of button mash your way through fighting things. Now, it's not necessarily a hack and slash game or button smashing game where, yes, you could do that to get through it probably fairly well on the easy, but if you play the New Game Plus on the hard, it probably wouldn't as much. The timing, there is a timing element to it, so it is kind of like really easy to play, but a little bit hard to master. So when you get the perfect dodge down or the perfect counterattack down, you really get to start having a lot more fun and seeing a lot more crazy animations. So that aspect of it is a lot of fun. What I'm really enjoying right now is that the story is compelling. The characters are all being filled out as far as what their backstories are and who they are. Just when I felt like, this chick's been following me around for a while now, what's her story? I got to go. The very next quest was what her backstory was, where she was from, and what her issues were. And then it keeps adding a layer of mystery on top of it, on top of it, on top of it. Now, they did follow suit with Final Fantasy X, where when you make a summons, it's not just summoning a super monstrous creature that does like a super attack and then disappears. They've turned into full-on, you just turn into that creature, but you have a more action-packed fight with like more quick-time events, and then there are some actual like sequences where you actually do have full control and you're fighting and you're jumping across this giant terrain. There's just two giant monsters are basically having a kaiju fight. For me, that's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that. I think that was a nice step up to the formula, to where you still feel powerful. Where I felt like Final Fantasy X made the summons not feel powerful. They would do attacks in Final Fantasy X and they would feel weak and feel like nothing happened. When you actually play as Ifrit in this game, you feel like you're super powerful and you're destroying the competition as you should. So it delivers on that power fantasy of the summons. It has pretty good compelling stories with all the side quests, not necessarily feeling meaningless. They give you an insight into the world that the people live in, why it's terrible, why your character's doing what they're doing. It gives kind of a very cool full world, much like how the original Final Fantasy games did. So is this game of the year? Probably not, because it came out years ago on PlayStation, just now released on Xbox. But I would probably say it's one of my favorite Final Fantasy games, and it's one that I would definitely recommend everybody to check out. If you ever liked Final Fantasy, whether you are a turn-based fan or you're somebody who wants fast live-action fighting, this game is very fun. It is cutscene heavy, but I feel like it's gotten very good at telling its story. Where Final Fantasy 15 completely screwed the pooch on storytelling, this game has done it way better. So I feel like you'll be able to follow the story a lot easier. You'll have a lot more fun with it, and you'll actually start caring about the characters that you're actually in your party, even though you don't have any control over their actions. You're not going to be managing a black mage and a healing mage or anything like that. It's just going to be your actions, and then you have your potions to heal yourself, and they'll help out in battle however they do. They never really utilize the fullness of their power until like their appropriate times, where you can constantly like basically go Super Saiyan mode anytime you want throughout the game. But really fun. Definitely recommend it. This has just been a kind of a first impressions of it because I haven't beaten the game yet, but it's one that I've been sticking with and playing, and it's been a lot of fun. So you can catch me playing it on Twitch at the Nerd Crusade channel. We have some videos up there already of it, so come check it out. As you can see, this is the Twitch feed that we're showing here right now. Or catch more videos on nerdcrusade.com. Catch you later.